And you know what? They like some attention, so you might as well give them a round of applause. Say hi to the trainers. Hi, trainers. Enough about them. Let's learn about the beautiful belugas. After all, that's what we're here about. The lovely belugas that we have in the centre, working with Julie, the little grey one. Her name is Tika. And Tika is the youngest. She is 2 years old. She's pretty adorable, and she has her mother with her. Now, her mother is called Keela. She's working with Katie in the front of the habitat. Keela is 15 years old, and Keela's mother is in this habitat as well. That is the lovely lady in the centre. Her name's Aurora, giving you a wave right now as we speak. She's in her 20s. So we have 3 generations of belugas here, and it's definitely something to be excited about. 3 great examples of animals that can survive in the Arctic. Now, one of the first things we mentioned when we said the word Arctic was, of course, cold. So how do belugas deal with that? Because I don't see any booties, I don't see any jackets or gloves on them, but I definitely see a lot of something. As Keela's wiggling around, you may notice a lot of jiggling with that wiggling, and that is because Keela is fat. And it's not just Keela, all belugas are. They have a lot of it. And we don't call it fat with belugas, we call it something else. What do we call it? Blubber. Okay, North Americans, just as a side note, actually pronounce blubber, but I will accept your blubber for now. But, you know, tomatoes, I guess. Yes, they have a lot of blubber. In fact, they can have up to 50% of their body weight as blubber. And I can see a few eyes lighting up thinking, wow, I know exactly what I want to be for Halloween right now. It's a beluga. So how much extra weight do I have to carry, Paula? Well, I'm going to tell you. Put up your thumbs, stick out your pinky fingers, put your thumb onto your hip, and that is how much extra weight you need to carry around for the night to fulfill your dream. It's a challenge I'm sure you'll accept. And so yes, belugas have a lot of extra weight on their bodies, which keeps them nice and warm. However, you may have noticed there are certain body parts that don't have that thick layer of blubber, and those body parts are actually quite small. The body parts I'm referring to are the tails and the pectoral flippers. I have a good demonstration of a tail in the centre of the habitat with Aurora. That is a mighty small tail, and that pectoral flipper of Keela's is quite small as well. And that is an advantage if you live in a cold area. You might be wondering how. Well, let's think about it. When it's winter time and we step outside, which body parts usually feel cold first? Usually your hands and your feet, your extremities. So belugas have smaller extremities, reduces that surface area, and reduces the amount of heat that gets lost from their bodies. It's a great way of conserving that heat. The problem, however, lies in the fact that they have small tails and large bodies, which means, let's be honest, they're not going to win any swimming races out there. They're not the fastest swimmers, but they are very powerful tails, so don't be deceived. Still gets them from A to B. They can definitely do everything they need to and more. If they need to get out of the water, they certainly can. I think that deserves a round of applause, folks. That's around 800 kilos they managed to get out of the water. Certainly a lot more than I could. So, as we mentioned, they're not winning any swimming races. They're quite slow animals. So when it comes to a large predator in the water, they may not be able to swim out of the way. That's okay, because belugas have a pretty good defense, and that lies in their skin color. And if you have a look at the adults, they're a very specific color. And what color is that? White. Our adults are white. Now let me think about it. If they're white and they're surrounded by ice and snow, it helps them do something. What does it help them do? Camouflage, that's right. Camouflage or blend in with their surroundings. So that white indicates that they are built for a land full of ice. Another good indicator that they live around a lot of ice is actually on their backs. You may notice that belugas are actually missing a body part that most whales and dolphins have. Does anyone know what body part I'm talking about? The dorsal fin, that's right. So belugas do not have that dorsal fin, and again, that's an advantage for them. How? Well, you've got to think about it when they're swimming around a lot of ice, and if they're swimming around and underneath, they don't need a big clumsy dorsal fin getting in the way. So leaving that dorsal fin behind, by not having a dorsal fin really helps them maneuver underneath that ice as much as they need to. Now they do still have something left over. For those of you that are observant may have noticed there's still something left there, and that's called a dorsal ridge. And that dorsal ridge is also an advantage, because what it helps them do is actually crack open the thin layers of ice that forms along the breathing holes, which, as fellow mammals, we can appreciate how important it is to get access to air to breathe. So that's definitely a good adaptation that they have. Now we mentioned earlier on that the ice is changing up in the Arctic. It's starting to melt, and you might be wondering how exactly that's working. Well, let me try and explain. Basically, around the world, we have a layer of gas. It's called the atmosphere that surrounds it. The atmosphere allows the heat from the sun to come into the earth, warm us up, but it also allows that heat to escape so we don't get too hot. Now, what's happening lately is that we've been burning a lot of oil, a lot of gases, coal. We've been adding carbon into the atmosphere, and that's forming what we call a carbon blanket on top of the atmosphere. That carbon blanket still allows that heat from the sun to come in, but it's not allowing as much to escape back out. And that's why, as a whole, the Earth is getting a little bit warmer, and we can see those changes in our polar ice caps. It is going to have an effect on their food web. However, we're not 100% sure on exactly to what degree these belugas are going to be able to be affected by that, but that is hopefully something we'll be able to solve. One of the things we do know belugas can deal with is the fact that the Arctic can be a very dark place in the wintertime. In fact, dark for up to 24 hours a day. Now that means you can't always see your loved ones or exactly where you're going, but that's okay, because belugas actually live in a world of sound. And if you keep your ears out, you might be able to hear some of those sounds. I think that's pretty impressive. Let's give them a round of applause. Now that's something we call vocalization. So just like you and I, belugas actually communicate through vocalization. However, they don't have those vocal cords like you and I do. They actually communicate through their blowholes. By manipulating or changing the shape of the blowhole, they can actually change the sound that comes out of there when they're breathing out. Now what helps them manipulate that sound is actually their melon that's on their forehead region. You might even be able to see it moving around from time to time in the center of the habitat. It's a waxy substance that can manipulate that sound, but it also can help them out with echolocation or navigation through sound. Thank goodness, however, it's not dark all the time up in the Arctic. In fact, in the summertime, it can be light for up to 24 hours a day, and with that sunshine comes an abundance of food, and belugas have an interesting way of taking advantage. Katie, would you mind sharing with us how they do that?
Absolutely, Paula. I'm giving you guys a wave so you can see where my voice is coming from. Belugas are what we refer to as opportunistic hunters, which means that they'll eat pretty much anything that they can get. Here at the Vancouver Aquarium, we do feed our belugas a variety of fish, as well as squid, but out in their natural habitat, it's not uncommon to see belugas feasting on clams or worms that you'll find in the sandy, silty ocean bottom floor. Now you can see on our belugas, they don't have hands like we do. Instead, they have pectoral flippers. So they've developed a very unique feeding technique. Very flexible lips, which allows them to hold large amounts of water in their mouth and spit into that ocean floor. So if you want to direct your attention out front to our volunteer, Keela's going to give him a nice taste of that unique feeding technique. Very nice. Back to you, Paula.
Well, thank you very much, and give Flynn a round of applause. I think that was very great. Good job there, Flynn. You can go back if you need to. Still in shock. That is quite chilly, that water. I can appreciate it. Okay, so that's one interesting way that they take advantage of the summertime. Another thing that they do is actually give birth. It makes sense. Beluga babies don't have as much blubber, so give birth in the warmer months so they can stay warm. They also give birth in a specific area, estuaries where the rivers meet the oceans. It's a shallow area. It's a murky area, and it's a great place to give birth to a baby beluga, and it means that belugas are actually one of the only whales that are actually comfortable in shallow areas. So if you have a look at Aurora in the top right-hand corner, you'll see how comfortable she is in that shallow environment of this habitat. Those of you that are downstairs will definitely see how close that belly is actually getting to the bottom. So we've learned that belugas can accept the challenges that the Arctic gives them. Of course, the only one we're not too sure about is climate change, but the good news is climate change is something we can control. If it's us that's emitting that carbon into the atmosphere, it's us that can choose to stop. So things